where in the US, it became like a battle. And so now, like a lot of organizations will just do up to the line of that regulatory, instead of it saying, hey, how do we do this? Because it's either the right thing to do, or it's an opportunity for us to connect to this community.
Hi, and welcome to Someone You Should Meet. Today, I'm joined by Jim and Riley Pathman, who are a duo marathon team from Del Mar. Hi, guys. Thanks for joining me.
Hello. Thanks for having us. Riley, say hi.
Thanks, Jim. Hi, Riley.
Hi.
Hello. How are you both doing?
Doing good. Doing good.
Good.
Riley, are you doing good?
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you two have been really busy recently, haven't you?
Yep. So
Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah. So what we, I guess I probably could take a step back and talk about what our normal routine is. Riley and I race together in endurance races, so triathlons, marathons, all different types of running races. And up until recently, we raced almost every weekend. Including the weekend before we went into lockdown, we ran the LA Marathon. And that weekend, we ended up having to run up to LA, ran in LA, and then came back here. And the next day, on March 4th, we basically haven't left the house since. So normal busy for us would have been a run every weekend. And that started to wear on Riley because it's so far out of his routine of being able to exercise outside, do runs, go see people, do everything that was a normal competition for him. So what we started doing early on in March is we started just doing circles around our house. And that turned into an idea where we would stage a complete race for Riley around our house. So we, for the last 3 or 4 weeks, we were preparing for it, putting together, we did things like we had event shirts made here at the house with iron-on type of things. We had bibs made for our run. Let me find you one of the bibs here.
Jim, just get that top up. What does it say on there? Yeah, that's what I wanted to see. What does it say?
Yeah, so this one says "Everybody's Home Half Marathon." They're personalized bibs, so Riley has his number, but his name as well. We had some people who sponsored it. Original 40 is a brewery here in San Diego, so they actually provided beers for us for a beer garden for after the race. Team Hoyt San Diego is a group that we are involved with, that we run with, and we did a fundraising event on the day of the race. November Project is a workout group that we run with that's based here in San Diego. DJ Kanoya is a guy who is a DJ friend of ours who came out and was the event on-site DJ. So he spun records for us while we were running circles around the house. And then this one's in the corner is just a Strava photo or a Strava satellite map of one of the runs we did in preparation. And I just love how it looks with the Strava circles around the house. So I added that to the bib, and then that picture is the front of our house. So that's the track that we ran around. So
that's incredible.
Yeah, and so we originally thought of it just as a run for Riley and I to do, and we have a running coach is Andrew Castor. He's a running coach and physical therapist and author, and he is married to Dina Castor. That's his wife, who's holds the U.S. women's marathon record. She was an Olympic silver medal, and she won several major marathons as well in her career. And they live in Mammoth, California. And when I told him that I was still doing our training and still staying in shape, he asked how we were doing that. and we talked about how we were running around the house. So he started making workouts for us around the house. And I said, well, I think we want to run a half marathon around the house. And we built up to that. And during the time, he was trying to run around his neighborhood. And he said, well, I think I'm going to try and join you the day that you run, and I'll run a half marathon in my neighborhood in Mammoth. And I said, well, that's kind of cheating. You have to run around your house in Mammoth. So he actually dug a path through the snow, because there's still snow on the ground in Mammoth, and came up with a route for him to run around his house. And then we have another friend who's a Marine veteran who is an ultra marathoner based in South Carolina. And she wanted to join us for our run. So she ended up running up and down her dock. So for her, it was 328 laps around her dock. For us, it was 265 laps around the house. And for Andrew, it was 185 laps around his house in Mammoth. So we made it into a real race, and we had a start time, and competitively, I think if we were all running in the same race at the same terrain and the same elevation, Andrew would have beat us by a long shot, but he was at altitude, and he had a almost 20-foot hill from the front of his house to the back of his house. So he had to basically climb 3,600 feet on his route. Our house is 10 feet difference between the front and the back. So we ended up running up 2,800 feet here, and Maggie was flat on her dock. So, but it worked out great. And Riley, did you have fun doing it? Yeah. And so for Riley, it was a very normal thing for Riley. Early in the week, I told him we had to go pick up our bibs and go to the expo and get our expo packet. And so on Friday afternoon, we had been practicing just running around the house as we would for a normal race, a normal practice runs, but just in circles around the house. So Riley and I was, very comfortable with that. Ahead of time, we did have to build a couple of ramps because we have a step into one side of the house and a step out of the other side of the house. So we built those ramps. We had a friend of ours who runs a flooring company came and helped us build the ramps. And then we had to build like a weird landscape bridge in the back because we had to cut across part of the yard. And so we had to build a little bridge to run across, so that we didn't have to do a bunch of turns when we got in the backyard. So that Friday before, I had prepared a full expo bag. And inside his expo bag, we had goldfish, Cheez-Its. What else did you have in there?
Oreos.
You had Oreos in there? Yeah. Did you?
I got goldfish.
You had goldfish in there? Yeah.
Where you put them?
Did I put them in your expo bag?
Where you put them?
Did you eat them?
Where you put them?
In the kitchen now, right? They're in the kitchen.
Cheez-Its.
And Cheez-Its. Where are the Cheez-Its? In the kitchen too?
Oreos.
And Oreos. That's right.
Oreos.
Did we also put toys in your bag?
Yes.
We put Noon, which is like a hydration supplement. We did a few things that we would normally get at expos. We put bracelets for him because they often give him like a race day bracelet. So we put bracelets in there. We put a bunch of stuff in his expo bag. The bibs I showed you, the shirts I showed you. So we did make it as real as possible. And then on the race morning, we had to get up early because we had to get ready, and got up real early in the morning, got everything ready. We had a race company called San Diego Running Company come in and install a start line and finish line in our driveway. We had the beer garden set up was just basically Original 40 bringing their selection of beers, and we set up a table and put a sign on it that said beer garden. And we had
my button.
we had
My button.
you want to let me finish talking?
Yes.
Okay. And then we can talk more about running.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So we had, because we knew we were having 3 people running across country, we connected it all via Zoom, and I asked a group that is called Teen Noisy, and it's Rudy and Fitz, and they're nationwide known race director, race announcers. So they zoomed in and called the whole race for us. So for over 3 hours while we were running, it took us 2 hours and 24 minutes. But they stayed on for 3 hours doing pre-race announcements. We had a national anthem singer zoom in. Joel B. Phoenix, he's a gentleman that works in healthcare, and he was on an overnight shift. And so he stepped out of his overnight shift early and sang the national anthem to us from his car. And the guns went off, and off we went and started our journey around the house. So and that was a lot.
I love it. Yeah, I can imagine. I mean,
hold on.
Yeah, Jim, how surprised were you at the amount of support that you were shown?
You know, I was really trying to shape it around Riley and him doing something that was real normal for him. And it was amazing to me the amount of kind of people who joined either via Zoom. We had, I think, about 120 people who zoomed in and spectated for almost the entire race. We had like the race directing company, 2 of them came to set everything up for us and stayed the entire time. We had the DJ's wife came, and then we had a couple of neighbor people come and set up bicycle trainers out next to, like, none of them on our property. They were in the street, and they set up their bikes on trainers, and they rode the whole time that we were running. They rode on their bikes the whole time they were coming. We had 2 friends that came and dressed in blow-up T-Rex costumes and did cheering that way. It was really amazing for some of the people who just decided to come out. We had all the neighbors came out, and everybody it was maybe at the most, we maybe had 20 people in the street out in front, but everybody was spread way out and was like, making sure that nobody was getting close to Riley. One of the things that we haven't talked about is Riley and why we were running in the first place behind our house and why we can't go outside. Riley was born as a 26-week preemie, and for 3 months he was on a ventilator after he was born. And then additionally has had other respiratory issues throughout his life. So for us, 6 feet isn't enough. We need to make sure that he really stays healthy. And so that was really the onus of staying at home. And everyone who came over respected that. And we were felt very safe, but at the same time, he got a great experience of a fan base and spectators online. And the Zoom session, we had 2 computers set up, one on each side of the house. So as we would run by, we could hear everyone cheering, and then we come around the other side of the house and you heard everyone cheering as well. So we heard all the race announcers talking, and we had people talking about Riley and their relationship with Riley. So it was really nice to have that for the entire race, where you could just hear what was going on and be kind of engaged with the spectators at the same time, still doing our run. So it was great.
I love it. I actually spoke to your next door neighbor. In fact, she alerted me to your story, and she said it was just a fantastic event. Riley, what is it about running that you love so much?
What do you love about running, Riley?
Running.
Just running?
Just running.
Do you like competing against other people?
People, yes.
Yeah. Do you like going fast or slow?
Go fast and slow.
Fast and slow?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Do you like getting medals?
Medals.
Did you get a medal from your run?
Yes.
Yeah. And did you get a shirt?
Yes.
Yeah. Did you get bibs?
Bibs.
Did somebody take pictures of you? Did you have a photographer to get race day photos for you?
Yes.
Yeah. And did we send them to your phone?
Yes.
Do you want to show her your medal that you got?
Yeah.
Okay, let me get it for you.
I would love to see your medals, Riley.
I'll just show you, like, this is Riley's normal medals collection. right?
Oh my gosh. And
Yeah,
where are they from?
well, so a little bit of everywhere. We've run 27 full marathons together, and we've run hundreds of half marathons, hundreds of triathlons. We can't even count the number of like 5Ks and all that stuff. Like I said, Riley, he wants to run. Well, he wants to swim, bike, run, or run every weekend. So he wakes up on a Monday. He makes sure that he takes his medal to his class, and then he starts asking on Tuesday morning, like, what's he going to get for next weekend? Where are we running? Where do you want to run next, Riley?
Got paper.
You got paper for a triathlon, right?
Yes.
Yeah, he wants to do this triathlon called Legacy Triathlon that we did last year. I think it's canceled, but we're going to try and figure something out so he feels like he gets to do whatever he needs to do. So let me grab his medal from our run around the house.
Wow, you've certainly got an impressive selection of medals there, Riley.
Well, they say thank you.
I got paper.
So this is his medal that he got, and I'll go up close.
Oh,
So a friend of ours made it. As you see, it's a little bit homemade, right? But
I love it.
this is the medal she got.
Let's have a look. Kicking Corona's Ass Half Marathon, April 2020. Love it.
It says
Love it.
It says April 46.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay. I thought I was misreading that. Why 46?
Yeah. Well, because it was really May 16th, but she said it felt like we were still, like the months were so long, and so she was making a joke about how all this is so drawn out. So
I love it, and I can relate. Believe me, I can. Oh my gosh. Riley, how did that race compare to your previous races?
Riley, did you like this when we ran around the house?
Yes.
Is it one of your favorite races?
Favorite races.
Yes. Yeah.
And paper makers the triathlon.
Yeah. You do have a paper for the next race, huh? Don't you? Did you have a paper for this race at the house?
Yeah.
Did you get bibs and stuff?
Yes.
Did they have your name on it?
Yes.
Yeah. So he, I think the thing that we kind of got out of it is at the end of the race, he normally after a race, he's hungry, eats really well. And he, sometimes he'll take a nap after a race. That's just not his normal, every day he doesn't take a nap and that kind of stuff. But after we ran, he came in the house and he had like 3 big pieces of pizza and took a nap. And the next day when he woke up, well, actually, I guess we ran on Saturday, so it would have been 2 days later. He wanted to make sure that he showed all of his friends. He goes to Miracosta Community College, and they have an adult transition program, and they've been doing their online classes through Zoom as well. So he wanted to make sure that he had his shirt and his medal and show all of his friends at school all of his stuff from his race. So for us, that was like, okay, well, that was a success. It was the first time that he, wasn't asking about, when are we going to get back to normal? Because that's something that he's wakes up every day and like realizes that, hey, things are not normal anymore. And so that's something for him that he's maybe struggling a little bit with, right?
Right.
You want the coronavirus to go away?
Coronavirus to go away.
Yeah,
me too, Riley, me too. Jim, how hard has this been for you guys? Because as you just explained, Riley is totally out of his usual routine right now. So how has that impacted him? And also his twin brother, who also has cerebral palsy, doesn't he?
Yeah, so Shane is here as well. He flew back he goes to University of Arizona, Shane does, and he flew back on March 10th and hasn't left the house either. So I would say it's very different for us. My wife's a school teacher here in the Del Mar Unified School District. And so she's been having to shift her, being able to still be a good teacher to all of the kids in a very different environment. So that's been hard for her. We have been fortunate that we have one of Riley's caregivers is quarantined with us. So that's a little different for us, right? To have somebody in, but at the same time, it's been very helpful. I'm still working, my wife's still teaching. So Riley would normally be going to Miracosta 4 days a week or 5 days a week. So she's been doing all of his schoolwork with Riley during the day, and then our caregiver's also helping Shane because he's got online classes as well now with University of Arizona. So I'm surprised at how quickly we were able to kind of shift to be able to make sure everybody's needs were met. At the same time, it is very different, and it's a big transition for Riley. It's a big transition for Shane. He lives in a house with roommates in Arizona. Now he's back with his parents, and he's trying to do the best he can with going to school, play some video games, and also like get a little exercise. So he'll do walks around the house. Sometimes he'll try and join us for workouts. We do November Project is the group that we worked out with. They do Monday and Wednesday morning workouts, so we always attend those. And so it's just been very different. But at the same time, I think that we have it lucky here in Southern California. The weather's been good. We've had lots of opportunity to like friends that have tried to help, but like we don't go out to the grocery store. We have with the exception of maybe 2 times, we haven't even gotten food from restaurants brought in. So we've been cooking all along and doing the best we can. And I don't know, I feel like we're in a pretty good rhythm right now. And I'm glad for that, because I feel like we're in that situation where we can't go out probably till there's a vaccine or till there's some, really solid treatment plan, because the risk to Riley and both Shane is too great, and it's too great for me and my wife to go out and go to our normal routine and catch something and bring it home. So we've just had to shift gears and make do with what we have. So.
Yeah, I mean, this situation is stressful enough for parents of, healthy children. But for you, how worried are you about what the new normal will look like? For example, will Sean and Riley return back to school? How do you feel about that?
So we've already, both of them are registered for only online classes next fall. So we kind of already made that decision that even if the campus is open, we're going to stay back and at least till the end of the fall, to then decide what we'll do in the spring. Both of them have okay online class options. It is stressful for both of them because it's something completely out of the norm. And I think the biggest challenge right now, Riley, he's active on Facebook and he's talking to his friends on Zoom. And this Tuesday, he was Zooming with his class and they were talking about what they did over the weekend. And some of the other kids who may have special needs, but it's not affecting their respiratory issues, that kind of stuff. So they went to restaurants or they're going to the beach and they're doing things that are kind of new normal/normal. And so Riley's asking, okay, so when are we going to go to the beach? And when are we going to be able to go to the Brigantine? When are we going to be able to go to California Pizza Kitchen? And so that's not something that we're ready to be able to do yet. And I think that's going to be a harder transition, I think, for us right now, is that everybody else is kind of getting back to a new normal, getting haircuts, right? That kind of stuff. Well, we're not. I mean, so I've learned how to cut Riley's hair during this, and so I've done haircuts with Riley, Shane. I did my own, So have
you got time to come around here, Jim?
What's that?
Have you got time to pop around here?
Yeah, everybody.
I can do that.
Well, you'll have to go into quarantine for 14 days before I can come over and cut your hair, just to make sure you're safe. Yeah.
Oh, believe me, it would be worth it. It's fine. Yeah, after this, get yourself around and we'll, yeah.
Okay,
good. That's funny. Oh my gosh.
My wife, who had, let's just say, hair color touch-ups, right? The lady who normally would do that for her made her like a kit that had her color in it. And so she brought it over and dropped it on the porch, and we cleaned it and brought it in the house, and I and our caregiver helped Lisa to do her hair. So that was so we're doing a little bit of everything, so
I love it. What a great idea. I might have to
Yeah.
text my hairdresser and see if she can do that.
Yeah, put your kit together.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. And just what you've been explaining to me, Jim, you are having to go to the nth degree to ensure that your house and anything that comes into your home is COVID-19 free. What things are you doing that maybe I may not be doing because my children, touch wood, are healthy?
Well, so like, for example, Riley hasn't seen my parents. They live in San Diego, and they've been kind of quarantined, but they live in an apartment building that's on the 4th floor, or condo building, and they're on the 4th floor. And so they have to go like up and down the elevator to get in and out. And they have, we were trying to figure out, like, can we figure out a way that we can see the grandparents, and decided that with my parents having to use the elevator up and down, it's a communal elevator, that they weren't comfortable, that they could potentially get exposed. So they said, well, we're just going to not be able to do that. So we're doing some of that stuff. Like I said, we haven't gone out like shopping. We haven't, I had to move some of the cars because they were street sweeping. So I went out, and 2 cars that we have were completely dead. The batteries were flat. And so so I'm like, all right, well, I don't know. So we've, that's pretty much the extent of what we've been able to do, is like what we can do around the house. And, again, I think that there's been, we're lucky in that we can do the Amazon Prime and get groceries through Amazon. I mean, that was touch and go at the beginning. We do order a new to us is we order a farm fresh box that brings our fruits and vegetables and fresh dairy stuff. And then we also do a butcher box that comes in, provides our meats via butcher box. So all the things that we hadn't necessarily done, like online shopping before, now we're doing all those things. So
Like a drinking.
you want to drink some Coke?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, we'll get some more Coke for you later.
Yes.
Riley, what are you missing the most?
What are you missing? Where do you want to go after this is over?
The coronavirus is going
Well, first of all, tell her where coronavirus is going to go.
to the moon.
He's going to make it go to the moon. Are you going to fight?
Yes, Riley. Is this?
Coronavirus.
He's going to fight coronavirus in the street. Are you going to fight it?
Treat.
Show her what you're going to do.
Yeah.
Hiya! Yeah.
Well, the coronavirus doesn't stand a chance against that, Riley.
Yeah. You're going to do it, right? Oh, and here's the other thing that we've been doing. You see Riley's beard and my beard?
Yes, that's pretty impressive.
These are I've never grown a beard.
Wow.
Riley's never grown a beard. So so this is all
Very
new for
handsome,
us.
Riley.
Yeah.
I love it.
So-
So how long has that taken to grow, boys?
Well, we started March 4th. We've been growing since March 4th. I actually had to trim Riley's a little bit. I had to trim mine. It started to get a little unruly. So I did order some beard wax, mustache wax, because we're going to wait till we get long enough, and then we're going to do handlebar mustaches. Shane's got one started too, so we're going to get those photos, like those old-timey photos with the mustaches, and then we'll probably shave them off after the photo op. So, what do you want to do after this is all done, Riley? Where do you want to go? Where do you want to go first?
I'm gonna go first.
You want to go to a restaurant?
Restaurant.
What restaurant do you want to go to? You want to go to Brigantine? You're waiting for me to tell you?
Brigantine.
And then where do you want to go? Do you want to go to Legoland?
Legoland.
And you want to go where else? You want to go to Disneyland?
Yes.
You want to go to the beach?
Yes.
You want to go to Grandma's house?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, so much to look forward to.
You want to watch your videos at Grandma's house?
Yes.
Okay. He has he will go through the list later. He starts to think about it. He goes, oh yeah, I want to go. He loves the Brigantine. He loves California Pizza Kitchen. Where else? What other restaurants do you want to go to, Riley?
I went to Garden Restaurant.
The Garden restaurant? Yeah, you want to go to Olive Garden?
Yes.
Because they have good chicken nuggets, huh?
Yes.
Yeah. So Riley's favorite is popcorn chicken and French fries. And so he knows all the places in town that he can get good popcorn chicken and French fries, right, Riley?
Yes.
Yeah.
So if I'm in the mood for something like that, I just need to hit Riley up and he'll advise me where to go.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And one of the things too is that we will have to shave off his beard because when we go back to those restaurants, sometimes they won't let me order it unless it's a kid's meal. So I shave his face really good, and then he looks young enough, and they're like, they don't question me. So
Oh, that's funny. Trying to save a book, are we, Dad?
yeah.
You sound like you're from Northern England. You sound like sounds like you're a Yorkshireman talking that way.
That's funny.
Yeah. You need to check your family roots. Maybe you are from there originally. Do you know what I really love? Oh, sorry, go on.
My wife is Scottish, and I'm German descent. So.
Oh, okay. Well, there might be some truth in that then. Oh,
Yeah.
that's funny. Do you know what I really love? You sent me your bio earlier, and I just want to read out the kind of heading, which is this: do what you love, do it how you can. And I just love that. You are obviously so positive, and you know the atmosphere in your house is very much a can-do atmosphere. And even though the boys have obstacles to overcome, you clearly encourage them to just kind of reach for the stars. Why do you have that attitude?
Well, I think one of the things that we found out early on, so when the boys were being born, my wife was at home on modified bed rest and her water broke. And apparently medically what happened was that Shane kicked a hole in Riley's sac. And so water broke and took, so her sister was here, rushed her to the hospital. And they tried to stop the boys from coming, but it was just too late, and it was time to come, right? So when the boys were being wheeled into the labor and delivery room, the doctor was in my ear telling me all the stuff that they can't do. Well, they're likely not going to ever be able to see, likely not ever be able to speak. They'll be in a wheelchair. They'll have all these things that they can't do, right? And so you never know, right? So they were in the NICU and they were 4 months. They came home like just after their actual regular delivery day. We, didn't ever really know what was possible or what wasn't possible. And we kind of found out early to just try stuff. Right. And we also kind of figured out that anything really in life that you want to do, you have to adapt. Even if you're a normal human with all your normal function, you still have to adapt. If you like to snow ski, you can't just like walk up on the top of a mountain naked and snow ski. You have to buy a ski outfit, and you have to buy skis, and you have to have a lift take you to the top. And so for Riley, skiing and snowboarding is very much the same. He just has a different piece of equipment that he uses to go snow skiing. And so Riley, we started those types of things early for Riley, like at 2 and 4 years old, we started to introduce different things. And what we found is that both Riley and Shane loved running. They loved doing triathlons. And so we just figured out a way to make that work for them.
And the fact that Shane is at university, I mean, that's incredible. How is he getting on there?
Well, he's doing really good, actually. So Riley, both boys were in like a special day class until like middle school. And at that time, Shane came to us and said, hey, this class, I'm not getting enough out of this. I need more than what I'm getting. And so we went back to the district and kind of had to push to get Shane in regular classes. They have 2 types of tracks. It's like a credential track where you end up with a high school diploma, and then you can go on to college, or you have kind of a pass route that gets you through, just your normal high school years. And so to get through the high school diploma, you have to take all the exit exams and you have to pass all the classes and all that stuff. And so there's this point in the boys' education where you had to pick. Are you going to go into regular classes or are you going to stay in special day? And Shane was convinced. He said, I'm going to be successful. I'll be fine. And so in middle school, he had a full-time aide that went with him around middle school and helped him on a daily basis. And then, but by the time he got into high school, and he went to Torrey Pines High School here in Del Mar, and he ended up just needing to meet with an aide one time a day. So for us, it was like, okay, great. We'll see how far you can take this. And he did end up applying to 8 schools for college. He got accepted to all 8 and chose University of Arizona because they have an adaptive kind of learning center that for the things that he needed help with, like more time on tests, he has trouble writing. He has trouble getting from point A to point B because he walks. He doesn't have a car. He can drive, but he just hasn't pursued like getting his license because it's hard to do it. So he needed a campus that was small enough that he could walk around from a mobility perspective, and he also needed some, technical support. And University of Arizona had all those things. My wife was very happy because she is actually an alumni from University of Arizona, so it worked out for her. She has this comfort level there, I think that I don't remember what the question was, how I got to here. So
it's fine, because you know what, I just want to go back to kind of the beginning a little bit, Jim, actually. Yep. When you first realized that, there was something wrong when your wife, when her water suddenly broke, what was going through your mind when the doctor gave you that diagnosis?
Well, so for me, I had no way to understand what was happening or what the expectations were. We knew early on that we were pregnant with twins. We found out that they were boys. My wife and I both were active cyclists where I have grown up in Southern California. We at the time lived in Pacific Beach where we'd ride our bikes everywhere. So when I found out I was having twin boys and I was like so excited, I'm like, all right, well, so I went out and bought a couple of old antique banana seat bikes, the Schwinn Stingray bikes. I bought 2 of those and I had them put in a box and I set them aside for when the boys would be old enough to teach to ride bikes. I had it in my head that then these were the bikes that I bought them. So I bought them while we were expecting. And so this whole expectation that I had and about how we were going to do stuff together. And even there's like a photo or a painting up above my bureau here. I don't know if you can see it. It might be too far.
Yes, I can. Yeah, no, you can see it.
Yeah, it's like a dad with 2 young sons, and they're going surfing and loading surfboards into the back of an old Woody car. And so like that was the vision that I had, right? Is that I was going to have 2 boys and we were going to go surfing, we're going to ride bikes, we're going to do all these things. And so having somebody in my ear as they're trying to put all the protective equipment on me and the face masks and all this stuff going into the labor and delivery room, and him telling me, well, they'll likely never walk, they'll likely won't be able to see, all these things. And I'm at the time, and it's still true today, that at 26 weeks, the chance of survival is pretty low. And with boys, it's even lower. And with twins, it's even lower. So, so he was telling me all those things, and I was just like, okay. So it really did take a couple of years for me, expectation-wise, to really get back to a place. Because I think for the first couple of years after the boys were born, we had the boys and we were happy, and there was, we did a lot of stuff with them, and we traveled to Europe with them, and we did all that stuff before they were 2, but I still was hanging on to that my sons will be doing bike riding and be athletes and, go water skiing and do all that stuff. And I didn't, let go of that dream, but I also could never really see what that looked like and if it was possible. And so at 2 years old, we got invited to go watch a adaptive ski program up in Big Bear. And we took the boys up there and we put them in these bi-skis, which is like a wheelchair on a set of skis, and dropped them in it, and up the mountain they went. And we were just standing at the bottom of the mountain, and off they went. Well, we kind of watch them go up the lift. They turn around, and the first run that Riley did, he came down through the middle of the half pipe in the snowboard park in a bi-ski, and he was going up and down the sides of the half pipe. And I was like, so like affected by that, of like, I couldn't talk. I was like crying, and my wife was like, yay, it's like it was normal for her. And I was just completely blown away. But that's kind of when I started to realize it's like, oh, so our reality is going to just look different than what was in my head. But we can still do everything that we kind of wanted to do. And, I'll give you one other story about, Riley growing up. When he was 8 or 9 years old, we went to a car race in Florida, and it was like on a road track. And in the intermission or between the heats of the race, they would wheel these go-karts out, and they did a little go-kart racing in front of us. And we were sitting on stands, and next to us, a guy came out and set his helmet down, and he was waiting for his turn to go go-karting. And Riley was watching, and the guy set the helmet there, and Riley picks up the helmet and puts the helmet on and says, okay, it's my turn now. And it really was kind of like a pat on my and my wife's back at that time that said, hey, we're raising Riley right. Like he doesn't know that we weren't here. Like, of course it can be your turn. Go do a go-kart, right? Everything that we've shown him, whether it's skiing, he did hang gliding at Lookout Mountain, Tennessee. He's done surfing. He still loves surfing. We've even competed in Paralympic surf competitions with Riley. And just all those things, Riley figures it out and says, okay, I want to try it or not. And so part of the reason that we still, and why there's, 130 medals on our wall is not because of me pushing Riley, but Riley pushing us. So
how much of that do you think is down to your and your wife's attitude, though? How much of Riley's motivation and get up and go is a direct result of the fact that you both have just encouraged him to do whatever he's wanted to do?
I think that there's a lot of that. I mean, I think a lot of families in our situation where you have special needs kids, whether it's one or more kids, it can be overwhelming. There's a lot of stuff going on, and there's a lot of complexities, whether it's medical or through the school district or just the daily amount of work you have to do. Like, Riley, we still have to help him take a bath at night. We still have to help him eat dinner. And, so like normally when your kids are 21 years old, you've kicked them out of the house a while ago and you're hoping that they're on their own. You may still have to help them in certain things, but for Riley, he's still our kid. And it's, we fully expect that that's going to be the way that it'll be through his life. So, and, we're happy to do it. So I think that we have created an environment that encourages him to do that stuff. And like, not, if you like to do it, Riley, we'll figure out a way to do it. That's really kind of the piece. We got to meet and have become good friends with a duo team based out of Boston, and that's Rick and Dick Hoyt. And the Hoyts had done, they did 32 Boston marathons in a row. They've done like 1,200 races together, and it's a father and son. Rick Hoyt has cerebral palsy, and we met them through racing. And so one of the things that their what they say is yes, you can. So there's nothing in their life that they've said, okay, no, we can't do that. So that's their motto is yes, you can. Your phone is plugged in, yeah? You want to watch your phone after we talk? Okay,
Yes.
after we talk, we can go watch your phone.
Daddy.
Who's going to fix my phone? My phone's cracked right now, so he's worried about my phone being cracked. So we'll have the Apple Store fix my phone for me? Yeah, okay.
Yes. Swim me.
We're going to swim? We'll swim it when coronavirus flies to the moon, we'll go swim at Rosen Marks or at the club, okay? You want to do swimming? Yeah.
Yeah, that's something else to look forward to, Riley, going back to swimming.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a rough one for us. Surfing and swimming, because he loves to go, like, anytime it's like nice weather outside, he wants to go swim at the beach. So he saw our neighbor Jordan the other day wearing a a swimsuit on, and so now he's convinced that Jordan and him are going to go surfing. Right, Riley? You want to go surfing with Jordan?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Jim, how does Riley surf then? Like, what do you need to do to enable him to be able to do something like surfing?
So he uses, it's like an oversized boogie board, and it has handles built into it. So he can hold on, he has enough arm strength to hold on to the board. And it's considered assisted prone. So he lays on the board and we push him all the way out, and he's done overhead size waves, and push him into the waves, and he'll ride the wave all the way into the beach. Sometimes he crashes. Do you crash sometimes on your board?
Yes.
Yeah, but it's fun still, right?
What did you?
Yeah. So
Riley, what do you like about surfing?
What do you love about surfing? You like little waves or big waves?
Yeah, big waves.
You like big waves, huh?
Yeah, waves.
Little waves too? Yeah, you like both?
Yeah.
Do you like riding on the wave, or do you like when you get crashed?
Wave.
Riding the wave, yeah.
Crash.
And you like crashing too?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's just something that's he's always been comfortable with. He's water safe with flotation, so he wears like a flotation vest. Riley, look up, talk to the lady. So he wears like a flotation vest, so because he doesn't have enough trunk strength to really get his head up above water if he's stopped. So he wears that, and we load him on the board, and we take him and push him in waves. And it's always interesting when we go, because a lot of families see this little guy come crashing in on the beach, and as soon as he falls off the board, he wants to like float in the water with his head down. So everybody freaks out and runs out to Riley, and then he pops his head up and he's having a great time. So he's very comfortable. He loves surfing, huh, Riley?
Yes.
Yeah, you love surfing.
That's great, Riley.
Yeah.
Jim, how about when you run? What does Riley kind of sit in to make that happen?
So we have they call it a racing chair right now. So it's basically like a modified wheelchair that's modified for racing. It's 3 wheels instead of 4, and it has handles behind it. So I push from the handles behind it. When we first did it, when the boys were 4, there really wasn't any companies making anything like that. So we ended up finding a company that made a 3-wheel bike in Germany, and we had it shipped to the US, and I had somebody customize and make a handle from the behind so I could push from behind. And so he started that. It was like a semi-recumbent bike. And then over time, over the last, for Riley, it's 15 or 16 years. He's been, we're going to watch a movie player after we're finished talking?
Yeah.
Okay. We have gone through about 30 pieces of equipment to the point where has something that he's comfortable racing in now, right, Riley? Do you like your blue? He calls it his blue bike, right? You want to get numbers for your blue bike?
Numbers.
You want numbers, new numbers?
Yes.
You want to do running in your blue bike?
Yes.
Okay, sounds good. So that's what he uses on the running portion. We have a trailer it's a German-made recumbent trailer that he sits in for the bike part. So I tow that behind my bike. And on the swim, we use basically that surfboard / boogie board with the handles on it. that's how we do the swim part of triathlons when we do triathlons. So.
Go boo boo.
That's amazing. It sounds like you've got some great pieces of kit there.
Yeah.
Jim, what are the challenges and the rewards of having children with cerebral palsy?
Well, so cerebral palsy is a very wide spectrum of. It's basically a brain injury at birth, and so it can affect motor skills. It can affect your brain function. It can affect vision, speech, really anything that, it's basically a traumatic brain injury at or around birth. And every kid is different with CP, but for the most part, most of them have to do lots of occupational therapy, speech therapy, physical therapy. So growing up knowing, with the boys, knowing that we got them in as much therapy as possible. So the big difference, I think, is that instead of being able for us to do 4 days of soccer practice and play soccer, the boys, when they finished school, they were in therapy for 2-3 hours a day. So it really has, I think, done a couple of things. One is they didn't have a lot of peers growing up that they could relate to, because they didn't spend time with their peers doing baseball or soccer or any of that stuff. They spent a lot of time with adults doing therapy. And so in addition to just the logistics of that as a family, we also just have always had to be real careful with their health and keeping them healthy and keeping them active. And so we've done a great, I think, job with that, where they've thrived and continue to thrive. And I think that you have to kind of stay on top of things. We also, are lucky, as a lot of the families that we now have as peers, through Team Hoyt, we know 50 families here in San Diego that we would have never met that have kids with disabilities, and they're now Riley's peers, and we share the same struggles as families. It's a community that we would never have connected with. And at the same time, Riley has people that, he can relate to, and, it's not like he's the only kid who can't go to the playground. Now they can hang out together, and they share their iPad, and they watch the same movies still. And, so it's refreshing to have that as well. So
where do you get your support from?
Well, we get a lot of support from my wife, who, carries a lot of the burden of the educational stuff. And she has taken it upon herself to learn about all the medical stuff. So there's a lot there. We have my families here in San Diego. Lisa's mom is here in San Diego. And we have, I guess, both my wife and I work pretty hard. And so we have created a support network, either just from providers or, we've just had to step up to make sure that we have kind of all the stuff that the boys need for their lives.
But from a medical perspective, for example, what is there out there for parents that, particularly new parents who have got children with cerebral palsy, where can they go to get help?
So that's a little disjointed here in San Diego. There is CCS, which is a California Child Care Services, and you get identified early, the medical records. You apply basically to CCS, and there's some guidance and overall guidance of their educational plan through CCS, and you get some therapy and some other pieces. But in San Diego, there's no central place that you can go to say, hey, my kid is interested in doing sports, or my kid is interested in arts, or whatever it is. You have to kind of seek it out on your own. And I think the best resource that we've found, and I think this is maybe a message to other families that maybe start having kids with special needs, is that you have to reach out to your other parents. So immediately, as there's nothing nothing stopping from you getting all the services that you need. You just have to be able to ask. And sometimes it's hard to ask because you're overwhelmed. But we encourage everyone we know to don't be afraid to raise their hand and ask for help. So it's in San Diego, you have to do that to even know about programs. Like we didn't know about some surfing programs when the boys were young, and we met a guy who was a teacher who was an ex-professional surfer who came out and taught the boys how to do adaptive surfing. He had never done it before. And it took us probably 4 or 5 years of doing that before we found any other programs that would do kids adaptive surfing stuff in San Diego. We ended up finding some of those programs, but it really does take a lot of time and energy to like ask the question. For a while, Riley had a service animal, and they told us that Riley couldn't have a service animal till he was 18 because he couldn't handle the animal. That they had to be able to know how to handle the animal. So we had to ask around and find a program that was willing to try it and willing to work with us. So it's just there's a lot of that energy that you have to put out there, but it's worth it because it comes back. And then what happens is after it's come back and you found a program or you found the information, then you share it with other families, and it's become that's a bigger blessing for us, is like things like Team Hoyt, where we were the only family in town racing as a duo until we started a program here, Team Hoyt San Diego, and that program now we have 30 or 40 athletes that join us. And so at any given race, there's 10 or 12 people who are in racing chairs like us. And, the good news about that is that I have some competition. The bad news is sometimes they beat us. So, right, Riley?
Right.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Jim, I mean, as I mentioned before, you're so positive, but how isolating has it been over the years to, have the boys and maybe not, know anyone nearby that is in a similar situation to you?
That's I guess I'll say that it can be isolating, and we've maybe done our best to kind of maybe just ignore a little bit of that piece and just says, hey, if you don't understand what our situation, we understand it, and we just as a family have maybe overcome that piece. I do feel like right now we're going to have that situation again because, like as I said, as things are opening up again. Well, things are opening up for people who are able-bodied and not at risk, but there's this period of time that it may be 18 months, maybe 2 years before we feel comfortable to be out there again. So it's all the stuff where, the gyms are doing their online workouts. At some point when they open up their doors again, they're going to stop the online workouts. They're going to, there'll be a lot less online Zoom education stuff because, it's not the norm. And so let's go back to the norm. Well, we're hoping that that we can encourage the programs that we're involved with to continue to have some facility for people like Riley, for us, who can't get out there and can't be part of the normal community again, that somehow we can still reach out and pull the community into our home. So it was that's I think all through growing up, we've had that challenge of like being included. So we fought the battle, and that was the isolating piece, is that, us having to fight the battle all the time. But then we got to a really good place, and now this maybe sets us back a little bit. A little bit.
Oh, Jim, what impact has this had on your marriage and your relationship?
So it's always a challenge maybe when you have other people that you have, in a relationship, when you have a newborn, there's like, we always say to friends of ours, okay, well, we'll see you in 2 years, right? Because the newborn consumes so much of your time. And so there were times in our relationship that, we were consumed with the boys, and weren't able to make time for each other. And I think that's a constant opportunity / effort for both of us all the time, just make sure that not only are the boys okay, but we're okay. And so that's fortunately we continue to survive that. They do say that most families that start off in the NICU, they say that, the divorce rate of if you had kids that are in the NICU for any extended stay, it's like 85 or 90% divorce rate from that. And so just because it's really stressful and it's really hard, and then when you come home, it's still there, it's still on. You still have all of these things that you have to deal with. So us fighting through that and staying strong, I think has been a really great thing in the long run for our relationship anyway. So fortunately.
So how have you managed to do that though, Jim? How have you managed to make it work?
Just like I said, just making sure that we take that step back, and that step back might be 5 minutes a day or 2 hours a day. And, we have gotten some opportunities where we have really good caregivers because we've treated them well over time and they treat us well, where we were able to travel together without the boys. Sometimes we just, a lot of times we just take the boys with us and we take a caregiver with us. And that helps us to have some kind of a normal adult interaction. At the same time, we just have also resigned to that our Riley will always be in our lives. So we tell people that we're empty nesters plus one. So it is what it is. And so I think it's just also, until you're in a situation, you don't know how it's going to be. And so for us, we don't know any other situation. I didn't have 2 kids before this that were normal. This is our normal. So for us, this has been a really good normal, right? And I will tell you, one of the things, like Riley, still gets a visit from Santa every year. He still watches Land Before Time and Scooby-Doo and all that kind of stuff. So Riley is like, he's the good twin to Shane's a little bit more the evil twin. And but so Riley, we get a lot of kind of gratification from Riley being our son, who's like keeps to bringing us the magic of Christmas every year. And he looks forward to Easter and he looks forward to Thanksgiving. And so we get to see all those things, like that first time you saw Disneyland through your kid's eyes, we see that through Riley's eyes now. Even though he's 21, we still see that. So it's a blessing as well.
That's really interesting, and that's a perspective that I've not even considered, because I'll often say I wish I could freeze my daughters. They're 11, almost 12, and 9 now, and they still believe in Santa and all of those things, but I want to freeze them. I don't want them to get older. So in some ways, do you almost feel that you're blessed to have a son who won't necessarily move on from that stage?
Yeah, absolutely. We talk about it all the time. And, Riley's still excited to go to Legoland, and, most 21-year-old kids have outgrown Legoland, but, Legoland's a great, fun place to go. And you got Legoland movies. Yeah. You have a pass for Legoland.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you like going to Legoland with us?
Get paper.
You have paper for Legoland. Yeah. So that kind of stuff, that the good stuff of when you have younger kids, we still have all that good stuff from Riley. Shane, he went through the teens area. He told us when he was 14 that he was retired from running races and triathlons, and it was because he didn't want to get up early in the morning. And we said, hey, that's like a really normal thing at 14, that you don't want to hang out with your parents for 8 hours a day. So we said, okay, great. That's awesome. We were very happy that he was having those normal things. At the same time, Riley's not kicked us out yet. He loves to have us around and do all the fun stuff with us. So we relish it when we have it. So
How are the twins different, Jim, and how does this condition impact them differently?
so Riley still uses a walker to get around, and he is, like I said, at an adult transition program at Miracosta College. He likely will not ever really be able to hold a regular job, and he will probably keep him in an adult day program for most of his life, so he can still get some educational stuff, some physical therapy stuff. His reading and comprehension level is about like a second, third grade reading and comprehension level, and it's been that way since he was in third or fourth grade. And Shane, like I said, through middle school, he started to really accelerate, and all that stuff started to fire in his brain, and all those connections started to work. And it was a struggle through high school for him. He really had to work at it really hard. He lost a lot of things that other kids would have gotten in an elementary setting. So he really had to learn all that stuff as well as all of the high school curriculum. But now he's at college. Last summer, he did an internship at a brewery and a restaurant. And so he learned some stuff around the kitchen. The one thing because of his disability, his fine motor skills, he can walk, but he can't get up and down stairs very well. He needs help getting up and down stairs. He can't do long periods of time like walking or standing, that kind of stuff. He has to rest. And so Shane's physically still has all of the cerebral palsy stuff of having a gait, where his walking gait, you can tell he has cerebral palsy. And he's left hemi, so he has stronger right arm than left. And so it's hard physically for him to do a lot of things, but mentally he's spot on, right? He's all the things, all the good stuff of being a college kid and all the bad stuff of being a college kid, because he knows everything, knows better than we do now. But he was able to work at a restaurant, and we told him, you can do anything in the restaurant except for work with knives. And of course, he ended up being like a prep cook, where he cut up the vegetables and he did the French fries from scratch. He'd cut them and put them through the cutter and do all that stuff. So we're like, okay. And he didn't cut himself last summer. So it worked out. So.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But how like nervous as a parent are you over the boys? Because I'm guessing you might be a bit more protective than a normal parent would be.
Yeah, we are. Shane, we kind of we let him discover on his own, right? So he has enough. He's probably more nervous or more concerned than we are about his well-being. So he's actually a better guide of what he thinks he can and can't do easily. And he's also not afraid to ask for help. Riley, on the other hand, has had situations where he didn't understand like the danger of a situation. So we've had to. We're close to Riley, right? We're close to him when he's walking in his walker. He used to have a power wheelchair, and at one point I'll make a long story short. We were on the Disney cruise, and he was in a power wheelchair and drove his power wheelchair off a flight of stairs, and it crashed down basically 2 flights of stairs on the Disney cruise. And he fortunately was small enough that the power wheelchair took the brunt of the fall. And but it was a big scare for us. And it's like, that's where we need to be with Riley, is with him all the time. And so, we do try new things with him. He does adventures, he does everything, but at the same time, there's somebody there to assist him. So
how do you go about trying to give them independence, particularly Riley? I know obviously, Sean's already at university, so obviously he is very independent in that sense. But with Riley, like, how do you kind of allow him that little bit of independence?
So when it was normal at Miracosta and even at Torrey Pines High School, he knew how to get from like the bus, where the bus drops him off, to his classroom. So, you let him do what he needs to do, and you let him go to, walk to his classroom, and you let him, be able to advocate for himself when it comes time to eat lunch. Or we would take him shopping, and he goes to pick whatever food he wants or whatever fruits he wants, that kind of stuff. So we let him have any independence that we can. We got him a phone a couple of years back because he was using our phones to like watch movie or do things. And he went on my wife's Facebook, and he started posting pictures on her Facebook. I'm like, okay, now you're at the point where you can have your own phone. And so we let him do what he communicates to us that he wants to do. At the same time, we also give him a little push with new things, trying new foods, that kind of stuff. He's always has these limited things from a texture, what he's comfortable eating and that kind of stuff. So we just kind of let him guide us. I think he appreciates that, and that's independence for him. At the same time, I think he's smart enough to know that, like, hey, I know I can't really get myself into the bathtub and out of the bathtub by myself. So he's not afraid to ask for help either.
No,
So-
not a bathtub.
Not a bathtub. What do you like to do? Shower or bath?
So we're done.
Like both, huh? All of them?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're both good in different ways, aren't they, Riley?
Yes.
Jim, so you sent both boys to Torrey Pines High School. Why did you do that? Why did you not let them go to a special needs school, for example?
Well, so what we found is the school district here was really good with understanding their special needs and making sure that they had all the services available. So we had, every year that was a question for us about where's the appropriate setting for them from a school perspective. And it really was about the district doing the right stuff. And it was helpful. My wife's a school teacher, so she understood all of the process of the district. So there were some times where maybe the boys weren't getting exactly what they needed, but we knew how to ask for that. And so because that we were able to keep an open dialogue with the school district and keep things moving along and not take it, not get too stressed out or too anxious about stuff and make it into a fight. We just were always clear about, well, what was the best for the boys. And I think that because we were a little bit level-headed and we did take the time to get knowledge, that we were able to guide their education. And really, I think that for both boys, them having a normal school setting with the accommodations that they needed was important for them to develop. Riley, when he was like in elementary school and middle school, his world was himself, and he really didn't interact with other students. So what ended up happening is, like, through middle school and high school and that exposure to other students, then he started to really understand, like, oh, it's not just me anymore. One of the things that he learned when he was a freshman at Torrey Pines is he learned how to interact with kids. And his favorite saying, he would walk up to somebody and say, oh, hi, my name is Riley Pathman. And he would say, what did you do this weekend? And that was like a way for him to communicate to other kids and start a dialogue and be able to open that up. And I think that was important in their development. And, things like they got exposed to doing track and field. There's a coach, Charlene at Torrey Pines, she's now the athletic director at Torrey Pines, and she was great. And we mentioned to her in passing that, hey, Riley he knows about running. He does running on the weekends, but could he come out for the track team? And she said, absolutely, and I'll make it happen. And she had him come out for the track team. And in his walker, he ran the 100-meter dash. Shane ended up doing shot put and discus. After he told us he was retired from athletic events and that he was a scholar, he then said, well, I'm going to try shot put and discus. And Riley's not a big guy. Shane's the same size. So at the time, they were both about 90 pounds. And Shane did Paralympic shot and discus. And even to the point when he was a senior, he got third overall in California interstate championships. He got third overall in Paralympic shot. Riley made it all the way through all of the local kind of CIF Paralympic sprinting events. So he won first place in the regionals here, running the 100 in his walker. So that type of exposure, I don't know that we would have gotten at in another school setting. So we're really thankful for that. They've also have kind of lifelong friends that the boys developed that were, are kids with no disabilities that, consider both boys their friends. And so it's a long time. That exposure, I think, has been helpful. Yeah, we maybe missed out on some early connections with some other families, but I think that those have developed now. And I think that the time was right for us to be open to those relationships now. And I think we do a better job as a family,
Dancing.
having both experiences.
How did the other kids react to the boys?
Well, so everybody loves Riley, right? People like you, Riley?
Yes.
Yeah. People love you. I know, Riley. People love you, huh? Tell her.
People love me.
Yeah.
And I can see why, Riley. You're very lovable.
And I think also, Shane was interesting because Shane had grown up around adults. So he's really good at relating to adults. And so he wanted to have conversations about politics. He wanted to have conversations about business in high school, where the high school kids wanted to talk about the party last weekend. So they did miss out on some of that stuff as growing up. Like, they didn't get invited to parties and stuff. But at the same time, I think that Shane's relationships from high school were people who understood Shane. And same with Riley. I think that, Riley's easier going than Shane was, but I think that Shane's relationships were maybe deeper. Riley's, the other kids were always ready to help Riley and help take care of Riley, where Shane wanted that independence, and he didn't want somebody to take care of him. He wanted somebody who was like, you're my friend or you're not my friend. And so I think it was good. And I think that other kids sense that with other kids. They don't need guidance. They don't need somebody to tell them how to interact with kids with disabilities. They just naturally know how to do that. And it was a good environment for that at Torrey Pines, and it gave a lot of time to that. So they had a lot of volunteering opportunities. And so that's where a lot of the boys' relationships came from, was that. So
interesting. How have things changed over the last 21 years with regards to disability and kind of how it's perceived?
Well, so I'm in it, so it's hard for me always to see it from an outside perspective. But I will tell you that I feel like, in general, like the whole, ADA and having advocacy and all that stuff is very different in my mindset than it used to be. We traveled, like I said, to Europe with the boys when they were 2 years old, and we took them to an island off the coast of France called Ile d'Yeu, and we were there for 3 weeks. And we were basically the first time that they'd ever seen kids in a wheelchair on that island. And it was nothing was accessible. And, and then we traveled a little bit around Paris and little other parts of France. And, even going to the Louvre and stuff, they didn't really understand what's going on here. Right. Well, we went about a year ago, and we did a trip where we started off in France, and we went around all of kind of Western Europe and then flew back out of France. And every community that we went to had some accommodation already prepared. They knew what to do. They had all the museums had a program where you don't have, if you're there with somebody with a disability, you get in for free or super discounted rates. So everything that we did and touched in Western Europe. Here in Southern California, that was always kind of a little bit of the norm. You do have to ask for it. You have to advocate for it. But, and I even think your haircut place, I know. You about ready for another haircut?
You and me both, Riley. And
yeah.
Jim, I was going to ask you, obviously, you've traveled and you've been to Europe. How does the European countries compared to America with regards to provisions for disabled people? Because I know my mum she has limited mobility, and I used to live in France, and they were always kind of shocked at the lack of provisions for disabled people in the area that I lived in. And I just wondered whether, what your thoughts were basically on how other countries kind of provide for people with mobility issues.
Well, so our most recent trip was really eye-opening. We went to Austria, Italy, France, traveled through the country in France, traveled by car through Austria, Italy, Germany, and we found that lots have changed. Everybody now, we were in Amsterdam, and even all of the old houses in Amsterdam, if they didn't have some kind of handicap access, they had a way that you could do it like a virtual 3D tour, that kind of stuff. So right now, I think that they're ahead of the U.S. And I think that eventually, I think we'll get there in the U.S. I think part of the U.S. piece is it's maybe more the rule of law that says, hey, you have to comply with these standards from a disability perspective. And in Europe, it's more, I think they've recognized it as an opportunity that says, hey, we can open this up to a community that maybe we didn't have access to before. I think they were behind the times at first in Europe, and now it's like, hey, this is 1 in 4 families have somebody in their family that's affected with some kind of disability or mobility issue. So this is a great opportunity for us to reach out to that community, where in the US, it became like a battle. And so now, like a lot of organizations will just do up to the line of that regulatory, instead of it saying, hey, how do we do this? Because it's either the right thing to do, or it's an opportunity for us to connect to this community. So I think that there's some stuff ahead in Europe and some stuff that we're learning in the US. But I think we're all kind of getting to the same place, where now when you build a new building in the US, you take into consideration all these changes. Nobody has a question anymore. If you roll up to the door in a wheelchair, nobody looks at you and says, oh, you can't come here. You know what I mean? It's way more open now than even when the boys were young. We had looked at joining a tennis and golf country club here in Southern California when the boys were 8 or 9 years old. And we went to a few of them, and they kind of like had big open eyes, like, you're bringing kids here with a disability. We haven't considered that, and we haven't, what are we going to do, right? And we ended up joining at Loma Santa Fe Country Club. And even though their facility is one of the oldest in San Diego, they have made accommodation for us to get around, and opened, kind of open arms with us around the swim program. And Shane used to work out in their gym, that kind of stuff that was somewhat at first, like, that was like, you feel the resistance. At the same time, we don't let anybody kind of get left behind. So we kind of push against the resistance, and eventually we get there. And I think that's how the US is maturing in its accommodation for anybody with a disability, is that there is this push and shove piece, but we're getting there. So I think that,
Interesting.
yeah, I would tell you
Yeah.
that, you know, I went with a friend on a mission trip to Cuba, and even in,
Wow, with that.
somebody texted
Hey,
me,
Riley.
made a noise.
Um,
Yeah.
that's thing.
So I went to Cuba, and I went there
That thing.
on a kind of a mission trip, but it wasn't around running or wasn't run that. But I took one of our running chairs with us, and I found an organization that was like a home for kids with disabilities, and I gave them the chair, and we did a run with them and that kind of stuff. And even places like Cuba, who you think are behind on that stuff, the world is changing now. That there's like this realization that, you know, somebody with a disability shouldn't get left at home anymore. That's just a natural thing. And so it's becoming more and more of the basis of community, is that you make sure that everyone's included. So
what's San Diego like in that regard, Jim?
I think it's pretty good, actually. You know, we rarely come against anybody in our community here that pushes against us. We did when we first started our running and racing career. We had some races who told us that we couldn't compete, and that was a challenge for us. But we just keep pushing kind of for it, and we showed them, you know, videos of us running. We explained, you know, that there wasn't any problems. But I think it was also just because we were different, right? And so I think a lot of times when you're thinking about an event or you're thinking about something, and then somebody comes to you and says, well, I have to do it differently, then it's like, oh, well, I don't know how to do that. Well, so what we've done is kind of advocate and show people, like, well, here's how it should be done, and this was how you can accommodate us. And it's worked itself out. Like I said, when we first started doing it here in San Diego, we were the only team who competed like that. And now we have almost every race, we've got 10, 12 people participating. So
what did people say when they said no to you? What were their reasons?
Well, there was always like safety. Oh, you can't have no push cart or push chairs on the course. We were told one time that I couldn't take Riley in the ocean because it was too dangerous for him in the ocean.
Who told you that, Jim?
Yeah. So
who told you? Who told you that?
It's a race company that's no longer in existence. Let's just say that. And they just didn't get it. They didn't understand. And so we said, okay, you know, I also am not somebody who feels like a fight is necessarily the best thing. Is, you know, we're trying to do this because it's fun and we get joy out of it, and I don't want it to become a battle. So some of those things, if you don't want us to participate, well, we're not going to participate then. Most of those organizations have changed their ideas, and, you know, other people have either fought, whether that's through like lawsuits with some races, or it's been, you know, like going to the press for some other races that got them to actually accept runners like us. But at the same time, it's not something that we have so much going on with two boys and our lives that I don't want to get involved with some kind of a fight. It just doesn't add to our joy. So but we've been told all those things, and we just said, okay, well, you know, we'll either won't participate, or next year when you figure it out, we'll try again next year. So
how proud of the boys are you?
It's pretty good, right? Am I proud of you?
I'm proud of you.
I'm proud of you. Yeah. But yeah, Riley is the motivator behind all this, right? So he's the one. It's funny, he doesn't, you know, people think that we are the ones that are saying, oh, we ought to go do LA Marathon, and we want to do this. But he'll like he has more medals hung in his room next to his bed, and we'll come in and he'll be holding up a medal, and he'll say, like, hey, this says 2018 on it. we need 2020. Like, so he knows, and he's like, I want to do this race again. He'll tell you, if you show him a medal, he'll talk about that race and where it was and what the weather was like. And, you know, so he's the one who's motivated this for us. And for us, it's very healthy. And, you know, I'm proud of Shane. He's the one who advocated for himself to get the education he wanted. And, you know, he's studying history and political science at University of Arizona. I'm in technology. My wife's a school teacher. So this is all his path. So we are happy that he's picking his path. And, you know, we were proud of him when he was an athlete, and proud of him for telling us that he'd rather be a scholar than an athlete. And we said, okay, great, go for it. So,
Okay.
right.
Oh, what would you like to see the future hold for both of your boys?
Well, you know, we'd like to see both of them happy, right? So that's the biggest thing, right? And find what they want to find out of life. You know, I think that Shane at some point will find love, and he'll find a good job and a good career. And, you know, he's even thinking about going into politics. And so, you know, like, you know, more power to him. He has a very good and unique perspective on things from growing up with a disability and having all the things in his life that have kind of pushed him back, and him fighting against those things. So I think that's a really interesting for him to think about politics. We hope to live a long time and you know, be able to have Riley live with us for that whole time. And at the same time, want to make sure that Riley has his life set up and he was able to do the things that he likes to do. He loves school. He loves to go have his community at school. He loves racing on weekends. He loves doing workouts with community. So all the things that, you know, that he does today, we want to make sure that he can do for the rest of his life. We hope for health, right? I mean, that's always a battle in with somebody with disabilities. But at the same time, we so far have kept the boys healthy, and we hope that we can continue to do that. So.
Well, listen, Jim, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much, Riley. And yeah, good health and best wishes to all of your family. And thanks, Riley. I'm so impressed by you. And hopefully you'll be adding more medals to that collection soon.
Thank you. And Riley, say thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Oh,
Thank
no
you.
problem, Riley. Listen, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I'd love to get you both back on the show, hopefully when this is behind us, and you can tell me about some of the other races you've been up to.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Thanks so much, guys. All the best.
All right. Have a great one.